Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me here again on a Perezpective review of 11/22/63, the Hulu original 8-part miniseries. Now, we'll be discussing episode 4 today, The Eyes of Texas, and let's get right to it. We open up the episode at 3/25/63. We're getting closer and closer to the date of the assassination, but first, we are actually about a month away from the assassination attempt on General Walker. And we actually opened this episode with Lee assembling his gun. And I think it's kind of scary to see him, how fast he is, especially since this is the gun that's going to be actually kill JFK. And especially after we see how crazy he is after the last week episode 3, where he's yelling at General Walker. Although we started to see that, then we see a little bit different side of him when the baby starts crying, and he actually becomes a little bit more father figure for the baby. So I really believe that the show is trying to give us a different view on how Lee is. They're trying to humanize him, and we feel a little bit more for him when they do that. But we know what he does. And now, of course, we see that there might be other people in trying to lead him in the way of killing General Walker and possibly killing JFK. And he actually goes down to, after he finishes something his rifle, he goes down to the backyard where Marina is with George de Moranche, and he takes the infamous backyard photo, which I actually wasn't too aware of. I'm not a biggest history buff especially when it comes to JFK. I know the big things of JFK, not a lot of stuff with Lee. So he takes this infamous backyard photo, and actually Marina makes fun of him, telling him he looks like funny, or he looks like an idiot, or he says something weird, which is baffling since he beats her. And we see that George actually asks him, "Why do you need a rifle like that?" And Lee says, "Oh, it's to kill fascists," which leaves George's face surprised. Which I can take it in two ways. I can take it either George is happy because he's like, okay, this guy's gonna be able to do what we want him to do, or maybe he is thinking that he's a little bit further. He's taking it further than he thought he would take it. Now, while I want to try to take this episode in as much order as possible, I just want to talk about Bill real quick here. And I really think Bill's coming off as an idiot, although I like him joining with Jake, because it does actually help Jake in that Jake doesn't have to be going back and forth from Dallas to Jody to try to figure out what's going on. He's there to do this stuff, although I know that Jake could have actually just been recording and come back and listening to the stuff. It just really helps get everything going. However, he is starting to hinder the mission that Jake is trying to do, because he is starting to look at Marina. He's starting to fall in love with her, as we see. He's staring her through the window, even after Jake tells him that they also don't know them and that they need to keep it that way. Now, we see this later on in the episode when Jake and Bill hear Lee beating her, and Bill is willing to sacrifice a mission, or at least getting on Lee's radar to save her. And really, we see Jake to stop him. No, you can't do this. And Bill is about to lose it. He's about to go crazy. Now, this may have something to do with Bill being abused himself, as well as Bill not being able to stop his sister from being murdered at the hands of Frank Gunning. And he might just be trying to be able to save Marina if he couldn't save her sister, which is all good. But Jake has a mission. He's there to save JFK. He's there to stop something bigger than Marina. And Jake has the hindsight he has the knowledge that Marina survives. She doesn't die. He's able to live after everything that happens. Later on, we see Jake and Bill discussing how they're going to follow George and Lee when they get the door, knock on the door. And we start seeing here that the lines that Jake is starting to tell is starting to get harder and harder to keep, because Miss Mimi has actually found out what his real name is. And the reason she found out is because his immunization records were not up to date, which at that time, I guess they were really big on. He then uses the Godfather story to cover up for him, and he makes her believe that he's in the witness protection program, which I'm not sure if she completely believes him or not. But she decides that she is not going to tell anybody, and that he should tell Sadie the truth, that he's not who he says he is. And now at this point, we see Miss Mimi start coughing, and those of us who read the book will know why she's coughing so much. Now, the relationship in this episode between Sadie and Jake has gotten better, has grown. As we see, we jump forward a little bit more at the beginning of this episode, and it actually goes to one of the things I was lamenting in the last episode, is that we skip those 2 years and we don't get to see the relationship grow. Well, now, even though we didn't get to see it, we can see that the relationship has grown. And even to the point that we see Duke has noticed this and tells Jake that he has to protect the reputation of a woman, especially since they are not married. And he gives her a card with the location of a cabin. I wonder who he's been taking there. And even prior to this scene, or this part of the scene, we see Jake start singing the Beatles tune that has not been released. And of course, she's not going to know who they are. And he stumbles and he tells her, they're my mates. And then he has to say, like, yeah, they're my imaginary friends. So we see that he might not have done it on purpose. He might have done it on purpose, but he might not have done it on purpose. This is a song that he's heard of, he likes, and he's just singing it just out of, he's not trying to figure out when the song was released, who will know this song. And it's actually a bit different from the book, because in the book it's actually the Rolling Stones that Jake sings that gets him caught. And later on, we actually see Sadie start saying, "You don't even talk about your past. You don't talk about your family. You don't tell your family stories and that." So she's starting to get on him for, like, hey, who are you? You don't tell me these things. So how am I gonna know who you are? So Jake decides that he is gonna tell her the truth, especially after what Miss Mimi told him, and he leaves her a letter saying that he needs to tell her something, and they're gonna see each other at the cabin. He leaves a card there that Duke gave him, and there at the cabin they are intimate. While we see someone taking pictures of him from the bushes, and as someone who's read the book, I immediately know who it is. Jake doesn't know who that is when he figures out that they're taking pictures of him, and he's right about to tell her the truth when he notices an envelope pushed under the door. And the envelope contains pictures from the night before. And he leaves. He just decides to leave. He decides it's not worth telling her the truth, and he just leaves. Now, going back to how I think Bill's an idiot, and he is very much an idiot. He is the one that tells Jake that they shouldn't be following Lee and George into the cat house. This is the place where George was going to take Lee to meet his important friends, and instead he takes him to a cat house. And Bill does tell him it's not a good idea to go in there. And he knocks on the doors. He hears George say, "What is it? Candy bar?" to get in as a code. He uses the same, and he goes in, and and wants to follow George and Lee up the stairs. So he just chooses one of these women, these ladies of the night here, these to go with, and it's like the drunkest woman he could find there, and she has a limp. And as they're going up the stairs, she's telling her, like, what he does, and how much it's gonna be. Nothing standing up because of her leg. So we see the past push back here now. It is as he's trying to listen to what George and Lee are doing in the room. All of a sudden, this madam, or this lady, just starts going off on him. No, you can't go in there. This is not that kind of party. and all of a sudden you hear the police raid the place. And yes, I would for sure that is the past pushing back. It's trying to stop him from doing whatever he's doing, and it's not as big as the other stuff he's doing, but probably because there is not going to be a lot of talking between George and Lee at that place. It doesn't look like Lee wants to be there. George is there because he wants to be with the women. When they later get bailed by Duke, they notice that neither George or Lee are there, and it's most likely because George has bigger friends. So yeah, Duke bails him out, and Duke looks pissed. Now, Duke drops off Bill at the house, and he makes Jake go to school because he has no subs, or apparently has no subs. So yeah, so now we have Jake at the school. He has no tie, he has no belt, which Miss Mimi calls it on. That reminds him that there is a school dress code for teachers, and that she'll go get him a belt, which has the word Char on it, which is actually an Easter egg to the Dark Tower. And Char means death in high speak. So for those of you who are Stephen King fans. Now, we see Miss Mimi cough again. We see her cough again. And this is what we're going back to earlier, where I was saying that I really think that Duke and Miss Mimi are together, but they're hiding it. And not only do we see it here when she starts coughing, and Jake starts to notice that she's sick, but we also see that Duke is comforting her. And earlier, of course, the cabin. I mean, who is Duke taking to the cabin? And I think it is logical to realize why Duke and Miss Mimi are keeping their romance a secret, because of the racial tensions or the expectations they have at that time is not for that to be happening. And at the same time, we see Jake look across the hall, and Sadie's there talking with a man who ends up being Johnny Clayton, her ex-husband. Later on, we see Sadie leave with Jake chasing her, wanting to talk to her, and she finds out that Sadie is not getting the divorce. Johnny will not give her the divorce, and she actually reveals something about a clothespin, which he doesn't really say. Well, we'll let you figure out exactly what's going on with the clothespin. But it's really something that and we find out that they were never intimate, even before the marriage. After the marriage, they got intimate, but it wasn't a normal relationship. And Sadie didn't want to be with him anymore, and we see that he does have a violent side. We see Jake after this tail George, and ends up being tailed by Johnny Clayton instead, with Jake telling him to go away, and even calling him out and telling him that if he does not grant the divorce, he will tell the people from his town about the clothespin. And since it's a small town, people will talk and people will know what happened. And hey, it works. It seems to work, because Sadie gets the divorce papers later on, although he does have a letter says that he's not who you think he is. I don't know. So we go back to Dallas, and this is where Jake and Bill are talking, and Bill is actually fed up because he's been listening to Lee and Marina talking in Russian all day and actually have sex. So he's there frustrated, and when Lee starts beating on her when they're talking, and he goes crazy. And later, Bill finds her outside. After all that, Bill finds her outside, and he confronts her once again, putting Jake's mission in jeopardy. They do not want to be in Lee's radar. They don't want them to be recognized when later on he sees them, or he accidentally sees them when they're trying to stop him. So we get to the end of the episode with Sadie decides that she's going to take a casserole to Jake's house, and she gets there and the door is open. It's not wide open, but it's not closed either. And so she decides to go in, and the house is pretty dark, and we see the yellow card man in the background, and we haven't really seen him in the last episode. I don't remember we saw him in episode 2, but for sure we saw him a couple times in episode 1. And he's there to do something. We don't know what he's up to. He's I'm surprised that this time we see him being pretty quiet, and he leaves the house. When normally we see him yelling at Jake, "You shouldn't be here! You shouldn't be here!" And she leaves. He leaves, and she continues in the house looking for Jake. When she goes downstairs to see what's going on, and she sees this tape set up to put to hear. And when she pushed play, it's actually the taping of Lee and Marina having sex. Jake walks in on Sadie, and she turns to him and tells him, "Who are you?" And it ends. There's a lot of stuff that happened in this episode. And this review or recap here is more of a recap than anything, but because a lot of stuff happened. A lot of things happened where in the previous episode I felt like a lot of things happened, but it was just a little bit slower, if that makes sense. But yeah, I like this episode. It's still not episode 2. Episode 2 is still my favorite. Definitely more better than episode 3. I believe it's better than episode 1. So yeah, it's ranked right below episode 2, but it is a great one. Well, I want to know more about what's going on with Yellow Card Man, what he's there for. For those of you who haven't read the book, I'm not going to say if he comes out more, if he doesn't come out more, if he's being used extra. The show is allowing itself to be a little bit different from the book, and like I said, I'm not going to be comparing it very often at all, except for those times that I have, that just because I feel like that at the time. So yeah, episode 4 is done. I haven't actually seen episode 5 yet. Today's Monday. I punished myself for not doing this video earlier, so I'm gonna go watch it right now. Let me know what you guys think, and you can always find me here at Perezpective here on YouTube, as well as on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and Snapchat. All right, guys, we'll see you guys later after I watch the show.